Remedy Entertainment might not be the most prolific game studio, or really the most known, and yet over the last 2 decades they have been refining their craft, honing in on making something that goes beyond a traditional game. This storied pursuit is epitomised in Alan Wake 2. Hi, I'm Obsessing Again. I'm not here to review, I'm here to deep dive. You name it, I've probably got an opinion on it. Set 13 years after Alan Wake 1, Alan Wake 2 is a survival thriller stroke horror focused on dual protagonists. Alan Wake being stuck in an alternate dimension called the Dark Place for 13 years, and Saga Anderson, the FBI detective, unravelling a series of mysteries. Alan Wake and Saga Anderson are 2 stories running parallel. Going deeper into the story, they start to entwine. Alan Wake, the writer, throughout this story feels like an unreliable narrator. Perhaps it's the psychosis, the Dark Place, and the effect it was having on me as a player. The Dark Place, a never-ending nightmarish place, a manifestation of your deepest insecurities that sort of mirrors familiarity. Like deja vu, but a very deep personal disdain towards your own psyche. As Wake, you wander the never-ending corridors, high-rise buildings of nothing, with shadow-like figures almost sniggering and goading you. It's a vicious cycle of paranoia that you feel. These blurry figures calling your name out and some choosing to attack is probably the best and most simple way of bodying the emotional weight of what being in the Dark Place is like. Saga Anderson's narrative is quite different from Wake's. Roaming Brightfalls, piecing evidence, and trying to understand a mysterious murder is the perfect catalyst to soak in the foggy woodlands and Pacific Northwestern town. How Remedy creates their characters is so unique, they feel lived in, like they have a life before and after the story. You don't need to understand every facet or have trivia on all their hobbies and interests. As an FBI agent, you glean to every evidence and optional dialogue. For fans of the first game, it's a nice refresher, and for new fans, well, you know as much as the protagonist. The game explores mental health, mental psyche, inner trauma. It's all done eloquently. What is particularly strong is Mind Place. It's a great visual representation of Saga's mental state in uncovering the story and all the detective beats. It's a unique device as a player to understand where Saga is, deducing what's going on in the story. It's not new to see police investigation walls. Longlegs, Twin Peaks have all depicted this, but the mental mapping of it makes it so personal. Putting pins between evidence, plucking out the clues, and following Saga's every word really helps engage in the never-ending story. It's the first instance you begin to see how Remedy is trying to get literally in the mind of a character, and it being unlike anything we've seen in gaming. Games like LA Noire and its gritty streets require you to be at the forefront of the story, or even on the tip of knowing how it plays out. But nothing can help you comprehend this expanded story without the help of Saga and all of the Brightfalls community. So when you're engaging with characters, asking questions, you're merely holding on to every word uttered.
The ending? A shoebox? Who is this?
And, like a lot of parallels in this story, the writer's room is a familiar surrounding. Its execution is seen in the bending ways of conjuring your stories, seeing scenery click into another setting, making the story bend to every type of written action or direction. What Wake experienced the first time he came to Brightfalls was severe writer's block. This worrisome figure seems to be consumed in guilt, confusion, and a general unrest. After years of isolation, are we being presented with a downtrodden and withered soul, or an untrusted representative of light and darkness? What we know of Saga Anderson is the real world, and with Alan Wake's Dark Place is an environment made up of his experiences, and yet he has more of a mental block than a writer's block. Our favourite typewriting, torch-wielding bad boy novelist is a shell of the person we saw at the end of Alan Wake. So for Saga to blend into this world is a perfect motivator to come up with the next story.
Sorry?
The sheriff's department's still looking for a Caucasian woman, 30 years old, slim and blonde with blue eyes. She may be lost in the woods, and it's possible she's been injured in a car accident. If you see her, please make sure you get her indoors and call the sheriff.
There are undeniable differences between the first 2 adventures. Alan Wake is more linear in its design. Though impressive to weaponise light and dark, makes for a refreshing change of gunslingers of its time, it is still an action-adventure game. It has undifferentiated cast and a moody backdrop, but it's a game of its time. Alan Wake 2? Undoubtedly more cinematic. Saga alone elevates the story. Her perspective, character, is a breath of fresh air. Whilst playing as Wake, it's like wearing an old pair of slippers. I couldn't help but be immersed as an FBI detective, shining my light for every clue to add. The cinematic approach has slowed the pace to unravel the story, allowing you to soak up each scene. In the first game, you clutch to every beaming light, having to confront most enemies, and sometimes it falls into the frenzied crowd control with flare guns. But in this later installment, you're not rushing. Tension is built from the quiet, the slower moments, letting the dread almost ferment in the Cauldron Lake. The release of each Remedy game, proving more sophisticated, trying to elevate away from its counterparts to be a higher level of entertainment, is admirable. The third-person adventure game 2010 is serviceable, but this story is an anthology of mystery and intrigue, harmonised with manuscripts, giving you more reasons to keep turning the page. Alan Wake 2 is a maximalist game. It's an unusual thing to say for a game. Typically, if a game is swinging for the fence, it's normally a bad thing, and you would refer it to as maybe biting off more than it can chew. But my belief is that when it's really swinging for the fence and pushing the narrative, from its rock opera to the dark dreaded tensity, the rough with the smooth, both things complement each other well. I found moments of levity between the realities. There are plausible comparisons of this playing like Resident Evil 4, a story from the X-Files, psychological horror like Twin Peaks. Yes, there are undeniable nods to these, especially in the character's love of coffee. But as a package, an emotive, rich piece of art, this is digital tapestry, taking fine elements and weave them into each fibre, pixel, whatever you want to call it. In this discussion, I've mentioned the suspense this game creates, and it's not through entering a spooky room or just being quiet. It builds and builds over a period of minutes, not just in seconds. In horror or survival horror genres, creating fear is clinical to making the experience. Jump scares can cheaply raise the blood pressure, but done with too much persistence can cheapen the story.
Easy now. First things first. What's your name?
My name is Alan Wake. I'm a writer. I've been...
Wake? Where did you come from? You've been missing for 13 years.
13.
The tense moments are almost never-ending. The light provides solitude, a moment to be at ease, but you can't rest. The jump scares are earned in the atmosphere of apprehension. The way Saga and Alan run in this stiff and slow animation I would liken to your own fears and nightmares. When you run in a nightmare, swinging your arms and legs in motion from fear is like being on a treadmill. In the game, it just instills panic. When Alan is in his writing room, changing a scene, the dramatic beaming red lighting adds to the dread of having to continue. Wake is pushing and pushing in this looped nightmare, trying to unearth in a world that isn't tangible.
The story rang true. I was making progress. The dark place reacted to my story.
The unease in the dark place from roaming about the city, looking for the light whilst being chased by shadows, is constantly uncomfortable. The distorted echoes of people shouting, "Wake!" The graffiti, feeding the constant rhetoric of your deepest insecurities, is so masterful in how diminished you are. Though you're not a detective, Wake has to question, to conjure everything he is facing. The lighting, or lack of, make it feel like a bleak noir. The way open environments are designed in a confined way, venturing into the distance to walk into the wobbly light, making you feel unsure which way is forward, is unsettling, but captures why the dark place is so cruel and damaging. Music created for this experience further enhances the story. It creates more depth. In Alan Wake, the episodic levels had level-ending songs. Hearing a David Bowie classic creates a level of excitement and buzz, almost legitimising the game because of the song license it got, but it's not doing anything. You can make connections with lines like, "This is Major Tom to Ground Control, I'm stepping through the door and I'm floating in the most peculiar way, and the stars look very different today." But at the end of it, it feels like the story or characters are being crammed in to feed as a narrative, likened to the song, than a song created for a character or a setting. As an artistic expression, Alan Wake 2 created something more substantial. Sam Lake, creative director, has writing credits on the new songs that accompany this game. It makes this game more holistic. Licensed songs from big artists are great, it sets a tone, but it doesn't add anything more to the story of the game. The new songs' lyrics tease future plot points or are self-referential about the characters and their motivations. Remedy are very transparent in wanting to create a widely connected universe amongst their games, and this can only help bridge the connection that little further. Another element of artistic expression is Remedy's reflection of their own background. Their games are undeniably influenced by American media, but the choice of Scandinavian or, more importantly, Finnish actors gives it this very distinct blend. It feels out of place for all the Americanisms, but yet the setting of this game is out of place, leaning into its own folklore, ideas and imagery largely unheard of in Western representation. For their majority demographic of American players, they are shedding light on their own story whilst blending it in with familiar surroundings. It's an unapologetic nod to their home country. Where they blend Finnish folklore is with Mestan Peto. It's an English translation to mean covered by the forest. The belief being that a person, animal or object mysteriously disappears into the forest, being hidden by supernatural forces. Again, an undeniable link to the premise of this story. The Remedy connected universe can be comparable to Multiverse, but not really the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Each installment of the games is building to a bigger picture that even the gamers cannot fully comprehend yet. Not just a series of games and one big game at the end where all the characters team up. Instead of making sequels to make a tongue-in-cheek reference, it's trying to weave a very carefully made story that is transcending over the years. Creating characters and lore that you buy into as a complete package. It's a novel choice and is aging like fine wine with every companion piece that's added. They are inviting you to not look at their one really nice portrait, but to their gallery. Remedy have always tried to break their game up. Instead of levels and missions, it's always about making it episodic. Alan Wake 2 has chapters like a book, and this works to the game's benefit. I like the episodic way of describing missions as it bookends more clearly. The flow is more consistent, but this game is deeper. Because the story doesn't play out in a linear way, shifting from Alan and Saga's perspective, an episodic approach would make it just confusing. The way it chapters is like two different books being read about the same universe. The game gives the player complete freedom as for how you want to approach it, and if you empathise one reality over another, the story will feel more distorted. Because of the unorthodox path a player can take from shifting between realities, adding to the distortion I think really benefits the story. It does away with calling things missions, and when you see how effectively they convey the story, it makes you question why other studios haven't followed suit. For Remedy's Max Payne games, to help convey the mature themes of their detective, graphic comic strip panels were used to bridge the story in each level. By the mid-2000s, when games' graphical fidelity was still quite low, we would see some live-action cutscenes. This would try and create a more cinematic approach than the simple 3D polygon models. As the graphics became more lifelike, more emphasis was put on motion capture. The PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 era didn't warrant live action, as this would take players out of their experience. Though the motion capture was much smoother, it was still years off. After years of innovation, the days of live action cutscenes seem to have become obsolete. In 2016, Remedy's Quantum Break. After a mission is played, you begin to watch a TV episode. A novel approach to making a more immersive gaming experience with a high-budget TV show. It had potential, but it just didn't work. It brings all the action from a player to a screeching halt. Refining this and having a blend of motion capture and live action cutscenes, interludes, moments have struck the perfect harmony. They are used sparingly, arguably at their best with Alice Wake and Mr. Door. Alice Wake has never been a compelling character for me, as we spend more time looking and finding her than knowing her, so to bring her dramatic story of what happened between Alan Wake and Alan Wake 2 really adds to me actually caring for her. Furthermore, by melding the digital characters and the live action actors creates an experience I've never seen before. If we look back at movie tie-in games, you're just playing as that hero with the actor in mind, not the character you see on screen. When you go from this to Alan Wake's, the line between real and digital becomes one. This narrative is enhanced by digital graphics, but it subsequently makes you more immersed in the story. This is probably the most succinct way Remedy have captured immersion, combining all the experiences from other games and refining it in Alan Wake 2. To call this game a survival horror or thriller really cheapens this game. For the longest time, the argument about is gaming art always falls on just great stories, but Remedy's artistic expression, blending all sorts of story, subgenre, folklore, character building, setting and tone it creates, cannot be watered down as just being a great game. Through the many highs of this developer, Remedy Entertainment has steadily grown by each release, understanding the market but trusting in their wider narrative to amass a cult-like following of their own. Through cinematic endeavours, providing tremendous value, unforgettable gaming moments, and a debatable conversation on plot amongst gamers has helped make Alan Wake 2 a deeply innovative and immersive story through its strong artistic expression. Thank you for letting me obsess again.